All right, we're live. Hey, Texas Study students. This is Coach Signs welcoming you back to another one of our distance learning lessons. Okay. Guys, we are going to go and we're going to cover something different today. Okay. Uh, so we got up to about the Great Depression with our Texas history. We got up until World War One. All right. Hey, how's it going? Um, So what we're gonna do now, guys, is we're gonna transition a little bit. We're gonna do a different type of. Hey guys, hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome. What we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna do something a little different. Okay, let me explain before I do anything else. Okay, so we've kind of ended off where we usually get to every year with Texas history. We get about to the Great Depression, we get about to World War One, and then we kind of stop. And the reason we're gonna stop, guys, is what we're gonna do is we're going to help you guys transition into 8th grade. Okay, what does that mean? We're going to help you guys. Hey, what's up, Jose? We're going to help you guys start learning about American history. That way, when you get to 8th grade next year, which is a star tested subject, right? This year we didn't have the star. More than likely next year we are going to have the star. So those who we're going to us 7th grade history teachers are going to start getting you ready for 8th grade history. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to start talking about American history. Okay. So at the beginning of the year, guys, I remember I told you that we were going to go on this journey. We're going to look at this story of how essentially Europeans, Spain, the Spanish kind of landed in Mexico and essentially spread from there, and how literally the explosion of civilization exploded from Mexico and Mexico City, and how essentially Texas became into it, and how Texas was formed from that, right? From that European exploration, right? So what we're going to do, guys, is that we looked at it from the Texas point of view, right? What we're going to do now is we're going to look at what was going on essentially on the east coast of the continent, right? We're the North American continent. While all this was going on in Central, okay, now we're going to look at, boom, what is essentially going on the East Coast with the English. Okay, the English were the rival to the Spanish, right? So they're like, okay, the Spanish are out there exploring new lands. We need to do the same. Okay. So what we're going to do, guys, is that's why we started with chapter 1. What we're doing now is essentially helping you guys get ready for 8th grade. Yeah, we're on the last home stretch of the year, and this is what we do every year. We like to basically get you guys ready for 8th grade. That way, when you go into 8th grade next year, you kind of, oh yeah, I remember that. We kind of talked about that at the end of the year, and that way you got a nice solid foundation for the next year. Okay. Before we're gonna continue that, I want to go over real quick today in Texas history. Today is Tuesday, May 5th, right? As many people say, Cinco de Mayo, right? But in 1862, in Puebla, Mexico, Mexican General Ignacio Zaragoza defeated French expeditionary forces. That is why, at the Battle of Puebla, that is why the event is called El Cinco de Mayo, right? In 1898, the first contingents of the Rough Riders arrived in San Antonio to begin their training for the Spanish-American War. The Rough Riders are famous because they are known as a group that was led by the former president Theodore Roosevelt, right? In 1939, the telescope of the United States of Texas at Austin, McDonald Observatory, was dedicated. The observatory is located on Mount Locke near Fort Davis. Okay. In 1983, President Reagan traveled to San Antonio to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, right? And in 2001, this is super random, right? Maybe your parents remember this one. Maybe you guys are too young for it. In 2001, the 200th episode of Walker, Texas Ranger aired on CBS. Walker, Texas Ranger, guys, was the famous actor Chuck Norris, right? The undefeated Chuck Norris, okay? So, Joe, that's those just a little today in Texas history for you, okay? So, Let's go ahead and look at your notes, guys. Okay, if you got your chapter 1 notes, we're talking about European exploration. Okay, so remember, we talked about Spanish exploration when we learned about Texas. Now we're going to look at the English exploration and how they're getting ready to essentially converge on what is presently the eastern coast of the United States. Okay, so if we're looking in our notes, reasons for European exploration, the first one was gold, wealth, right? Excuse me. Rulers in England, France, and Spain, and Portugal were eager to make more money. They wanted more, right? They were already the kings of these big countries, but yet they wanted more. They saw enormous profits that could be made through trade, right? With these trading companies, right? That they had not only there in those countries of England, Spain, and France, but towards the Asian countries, and how essentially important it was to be able to trade with them because they could get things that they could not grow on their own. European merchants and rulers eagerly wanted to find a faster route to China in order to ship silk and spices more easily back to Europe. Okay, from the European countries to China it's not very simple, right? But it's a lot of going through different parts, mountainous areas, hills, valleys, rivers. And sometimes within those areas, it can be very dangerous, right? So the main thing that they wanted to do was to create a faster route for them, okay? Yes, I got your work, guys, those of you who are asking, okay? The second part of it was glory. This is talking about the 3 Gs. If you remember way back at the beginning of the year, we're talking about the 3 Gs. The first one was gold. This second one is wealth, excuse me. Gold, aka wealth. The second one is glory, fame, right? In the early 15th century, aka 1400s, European rulers wanted to expand their empires in order to increase their fame and power. They sought to claim as much land as they could to take all the natural resources of that land, right? So back then, a lot of these areas were essentially unclaimed, even though there was Native Americans and people, the native people of these areas here, right? At those times, Europeans came over here and said, "Yeah, these are areas that are unclaimed, so we're going to move here and claim them for our king, for ourselves, and this is going to increase our glory, our fame for his history, right? For all of eternity." Okay. Another aspect of this was God, aka religion, right? The religion aspect of this. European missionaries, especially from Spain, the Catholic Church, sought to spread Christianity to new parts of the world that they had explored. Remember, they're thinking that, hey, if they're going to go to these areas and if there's people, right, these people have not heard the word of God, we're going to help them understand that, help teach it, right? They believed that they had this superior religion and cultures, okay? So this was an opportunity not only to make money in the sense of gold, not only to get glory in the sense of fame, but also in the sense of opportunity to spread Christianity and spread the word of God that these Catholic priests saw in Spain, right? The Catholic Church. So with that, guys, you start seeing the creation of what ends up becoming the Columbian Exchange. And what the Columbian Exchange is, guys, was a system of where trade. Well, it's essentially they will, and we're going to talk about that question that you just asked right there. Did they force them to learn? Yes, they did. They ended up forcing. We'll talk about that. It's going to be actually brought up in the later chapters, right? And we talked about it within Texas history, right, where they had these missions, right, and they would get the native people, and they would punish them if they didn't do their daily chores, right, where they would either bringing water to the animals or bringing water from a freshwater source, or essentially doing their agricultural duties, right? So a lot of these natives would run away and then come back and attack and things like that. So that hopefully that answers your question, right? But when we're talking about the Columbian Exchange, when we're talking about the Columbian Exchange, we're talking about a system, right, where people are going to start exploring these areas, but they need to bring in goods from other areas to help support this, to help support the way of life in this area. Okay. So when we look at the Columbian Exchange, right, it was an exchange of plants, animals, even diseases, right, between the old world, which was Europe, and the new world, which ends up being the Caribbeans, all the Caribbean islands, Jamaica, all that down there, Puerto Rico, La República Dominicana, those areas, right? It was an exchange between Europe, Africa, the Caribbeans, and now what is now the east coast of the United States. It becomes that exchange where, if you look at that drawing there on your notes, it shows you um, who traded what and who sent what. Who was able to send this to that and this. It shows you that kind of that circle, right? And this began in 1492 when Columbus unintentionally discovered the New World. And why do we say unintentionally, right? Or why would historians say unintentionally? Because remember, his main goal, guys, was to find a faster route to China, to Asia, to be able to get those spices and those silks as quickly as possible, right? So Europeans were introduced to New World items like corn, potatoes, and tomatoes, right? Europeans also brought Old World things to these New World places, such as sugar, grapes, horses, cattle, aka cows, goats, uh, sheep, things like that. They were not things that were natively here. They were brought here, right? European diseases was another thing, right? We're living in an area right now. We're living in a time, guys, where this coronavirus, whereas essentially it originated in one country, right, in China, and then it spreads all over the world, right? Well, that's essentially what happens, guys, with this. These Europeans who had gotten used to living with each other they had built up what's called kind of like a herd immunity, where you get it and then the next person get it, but everybody gets better after it, right? Or you get better from it, you recover from it, so you don't get that anymore. That's like an example of that is when you talk about essentially like polio. It's hard. Polio has kind of gone out of the existence. Chickenpox. It's very rare that kids nowadays had chickenpox. I know when I grew up, I had chickenpox. So that's one of the things like that. Growing up, I had it. Nowadays, it's very hard for you to. It's very rare for you to hear something like that, right? So with that, right, we're living in a time where a disease spread, and it's spreading throughout, the whole world. Okay. Well, back then, these Europeans had these diseases among themselves. They come to a new world, a new area, right? And they're bringing those diseases with them, right? So the people of the native area don't have those immunities to that. So what ends up happening? People who don't build up the immunities end up passing away, right, and dying. So that's another small thing that they brought with them. Yeah, they brought all those awesome things, corn, cattle, horse, and things like that. But they brought those invisible enemies, as they say, right? Our governments have said had the invisible enemy. Yeah, that's exactly what they brought. They brought those diseases with them. Okay, so in our chapter 1, it talks about New Spain, right? And talked about it just like we did at the beginning of the year. Cortés conquered the Aztecs of Mexico, and Pizarro conquered the Incas of Peru. Right, 1/5 of all the gold and silver from the New World went to the king, and they established missions to convert natives to Christianity. And like some of you guys just asked in the comments right now, natives were also enslaved, but many of them ended up not making it, guys, because of those European diseases that they brought with them. Okay. Well, you're talking about, okay, what about that other big country, France, right? France. Yes, France. France actually did not go south, right? Spain went south, kind of England went kind of just directionally west. France decided to go north. They went into Canada along the St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes, and the Mississippi River. French colonists established trade with the natives for beaver fur. Um, that's what they did. So essentially, the French went north, the English went kind of to the middle, and the Spanish went south. That's kind of how our European exploration is explained, kind of in a quick, easy, big picture. Uh, Thank you, Isabella. I appreciate it. I saw your comment. I was actually going to respond to what you wrote to me. I appreciate it, guys. So that's our European exploration, guys. That talks about just a brief concept of how essentially these European countries wanted to expand their riches. They wanted to expand their riches, right? By expanding their riches, what happens? They end up you see the abilities of glory, right, where they have the fame, and gold, where they're able to expand what they have, their wealth, right? And then another opportunity was from the Catholic Church, the Christianity aspect, where they get the opportunity to spread the word of God, not only through Europe, but now into the New World, right? And how that happens, okay? So I'm going to give you about a minute, guys. Those of you who are watching, if you have a quick question that has to do with the lesson, pop it in there real quick and I'll answer it. But if not, guys, hey, I'll be sending the quiz immediately after I end this live. I'll send you the quiz. It's due on Friday before we talk about it on our Google Meets. Okay? Doing about 15, 20 seconds before we wrap up for today. Okay? Those of you, if you have any questions, guys, right now would be the time to ask. Awesome. Okay. So it looks like no questions, guys. All right. So remember, quiz will be available right after this on Google Classroom. So look out for that. Okay. And once you complete that, we will see you guys. There you go. Hey, keep working, man. Keep working. Those of you guys who are in athletics, keep grinding, guys, because hey, it's gonna be coming back sooner or later. We're going to meet Friday, okay? And I will send you guys the schedule. We're going to be meeting according to class period, so it'll be about every 30 minutes, okay, guys? I'll send you guys the class schedule, okay? All right, guys. Well, if there's no more questions, guys, we'll see you guys on Friday and Google Meets. I'll send that through your Google Classroom. Make sure you complete the quiz, all right? You guys stay safe. God bless y'all, and we'll see y'all on Friday. Bye, guys. This is Coach Signs signing out.